What's up, what's up, what's up, y'all? Y'all already know what it is. I'm gonna wait for some more people to join before we get started with today's topic. I didn't even start it on here. Go ahead and press record. So I gotta do it again. What's up, what's up, what's up, y'all? Y'all know what it is. I should actually put this right here. Hopefully this is catching everything that I am saying. I'm gonna just wait for some more people to join before I invite our special guest for today. I am hot. I've had a long day. I worked today. Today was my off day, but I got called in for some overtime, so you know, if my phone is ringing and it's money calling, I gotta do it. Gotta do it. After I got off of work though, my head was hurting and my throat is a little raspy. Right now, it itches a little bit, so I hope I'm not getting sick, but y'all know with Michigan's back and forth weather, you never know. Hey Aunt Chris, how are you? I need to text Anika and let her know, like, get on live, but it's okay, because it is what it is. I'm going to try not to be on here super long, but for those who need help filing y'all taxes, y'all better hop on right now. If y'all know somebody that needs help filing their taxes, send this live out to them. And we gonna get started around 8:05. I'm just trying to make sure I have everything pulled up. Oh man. When I say I am tired, I am tired. It's okay. It is what it is. I'ma still work. I gotta work a little overtime tomorrow too. I usually get off, or with my new shift, I get off at 7, but tomorrow I'm getting off at 10. So, you just gonna do what it do. Y'all know I like making extra money if I can, because I need to fund, my podcast and everything else. But, yeah. I'm gonna get one more minute, and then I'm gonna go ahead and get started. Y'all like my pink drink? It goes with... Can y'all tell that it's pink? I don't know. It's a pink drink. And it's kind of like the color of this mic. But, yeah. Hello. Anika_Nika. I need some music or something. When I say I was not feeling well, y'all, or I'm not feeling well, like, I really want to go to sleep right now. I usually try to wait 5 minutes, but I am trying to make sure that I'm able to get to everything today. While we are... How was the food? The food was good. Okay, bowl is cleared. I ate all of it. I was trying to do half today and then save the other half for tomorrow, but I ate all of it. Because I had to put some hot sauce in it. And it was great. So, yes, that. Little announcements before we actually get started officially. I have a new work schedule. I think I said this the last time, but I officially got my official new work schedule has started this past week. So, if we had an interview set up for March, make sure you hit me up. I'm also hitting people up as well. So we can discuss rescheduling your interview unless it was already scheduled for Friday. Depending on how close you are to me, we might be able to still do that time because it is after I get off of work. But if not, we will have to reschedule. with me hitting y'all up about rescheduling our interviews, please, 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 y'all, I say this every single time, but please respond to me in a timely fashion, because interviews surprisingly do go fast. And if I'm asking y'all about a specific date in a specific time and you don't get back to me in time and that spot is taken, then I can't really do much. And I am only one person that is scheduling all these interviews and doing all these interviews. I do have someone that's editing the videos for me. But, you know, I'm only one person and it's very hard for me to get to everybody in a quick way if you guys aren't responding in a timely fashion. I understand people get busy. I get it. I get busy. However, it should not take you 3 days to a week to respond to me if you are interested in a video. In an interview. Please respond to me in a timely fashion. I would say 24 hours to 48 hours max, because, you know, gotta keep pushing. I do have an interview that's going to be coming out on Tuesday, Spotify 8 o'clock, YouTube 8:30, and the people that I interviewed for this particular this interview is I'm actually pretty excited. I'm always excited for all my interviews to come out, but the energy that I had when I was doing this interview was just like great. So I'm super excited for y'all to see that on YouTube as well as hear it on Spotify. I post only parts of the interview on Spotify, so if you want to hear the full interview, you have to go to, I only post a little bit on YouTube. If you want to hear the whole interview, you have to go to Spotify to hear the whole thing. So there's that. I am coming up with a date still for the credit repair, so I'll get back with y'all on that. I was trying to do it this month, but with the change in my work schedule, I just got to figure out how that is exactly going to work. But I'm excited about some people that I have lined up for my interviews. This year going to be a big year for us. Okay. I am just working on being official. Y'all feel me? If you know, you know. And yeah, I'm excited about that. Just make sure y'all stay tuned for everything that's coming up. What's the topic for today? Did you say? Oh, and it's more. You can come and get some. Of course, I am going to come get some. If y'all can't see the topic for today at the top, y'all, we are going to be talking about filing taxes. All right, it is tax season. I know y'all want that tax money. Okay, that moolah. So that is what we're going to be talking about today, so y'all can get the highest amount that for your returns and all that. Y'all won't have to owe IRS and all of that. Okay, we're going to be talking about it. I do have a guest with me that I'm going to invite shortly. He is an expert in filing taxes. He has his own taxing business. So just know I ain't going to let y'all down. Okay, the people that I have coming in to talk about filing taxes, to help y'all file y'all taxes, they know what they talking about. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and invite him. I'm trying to think if there's any more announcements. I really need to start writing all of these down. I say this all the time. I start doing it and then I'm gonna remember, but I also get busy while I'm at work. So yeah, as y'all can see, like I said, we are gonna be filing taxes, so y'all know I had to wear my talk numbers t-shirt and the hats, the fuzzy hat, because what we gonna be gonna talk in numbers. We gonna be talking them numbers. So if you do like this shirt though, I interviewed the CEO of this brand that's on my YouTube already, so y'all can go check it out. Her name is Tiff. She make talk numbers. She has hats, shirts, jackets. Gonna be coming up with other stuff. She got a cup. So yeah, let me see if I can go ahead and add my guest though. How do you invite? That is this. I sent the invite, so let's see. If it's going to load. Hello?
Hello.
Oh, we can hear you. Look at you in your yellow.
You said you cannot hear me or you can't hear me.
I can.
Okay, good.
All right, y'all. So this is my dad. He files people's taxes, and he's going to teach us how to file our taxes correctly. Uh, we got questions that I looked up on the internet. These are like frequently asked questions, and then if you guys have any questions yourselves, y'all can go ahead and drop them at the bottom as well. First and foremost, Dad, you can go ahead and just introduce yourself a little bit. Let them know.
All right. So my name is Terry Howell, and I am a financial services professional. I am a licensed insurance agent, and I have a tax filing business as well. So anything that has to do with filing taxes, life insurance, retirement planning, those are kind of the areas that I specialize in. So I'm here in Des Moines, Iowa, but I am still able to assist if you have any questions or any concerns with either of those areas.
Okay, thank you. So yeah, we just gonna go ahead and get started. First and foremost, can you tell us what filing taxes is and why we gotta do it? Because as a child and becoming an adult now, like I know I have to file taxes, but I'm not exactly sure why. I probably learned it in school, but we don't talk that much about it. So can you just give us a little brief synopsis about that?
Absolutely. So filing taxes is when you report your earned income to the IRS.
Mhm.
You also report any withholdings such as federal income tax, state income tax, and any sort of retirement planning that comes out of your check, such as a 401k that your employer might match. All of that will be included on your W-2 as well. And also, if you pay any sort of medical premiums, such as flexible spending, anything like that, that will also be indicated on your W-2 form. And the reason why we file taxes, so a couple of reasons. Number one, how many of you guys like to drive on paved streets instead of dirt roads? How many of you guys like to walk on the sidewalk instead of walking on the grass? How many of you like to walk down a lit street instead of a dark street? Well, all of those things are paid for by your tax dollars. And even though we pay individually, collectively, those are the benefits that we experience.
Okay, okay, that makes sense. Now I know why people get upset when they be like, my tax dollars pay for this service.
Exactly.
I mean, I knew a little bit, but I'm like, I don't really know the exact reasons and everything. So, yeah. So like I said, y'all, I have a list of questions. I'm gonna go through these as well. If y'all dropped any or drop any, I will go through those as well. So one of the first questions that was on the most common or frequently asked questions list was, how do I file my taxes?
So there's a couple of different ways that you can file your taxes. You can go to a tax professional and they can prepare it for you, or you can do it yourself. There's a few different platforms that you can file your taxes on. The most commonly used one is the TurboTax. I'm sure you might have seen commercials on that. And if you watch any sort of sporting events, a lot of those are sponsored by Intuit, who is the owner of the TurboTax program.
Okay.
There are also programs like H&R Block. There's Tax Act, and the IRS also has a program that they allow you to file your taxes for free, depending on whether it's a basic return or a more complicated return. So those are some of the ways that you can file.
Okay, you can do it by mail. You send it in through the mail or to IRS through the mail.
Well, you have a couple of options. You can file electronically. That's the most commonly known way. You can file by mail if you're old school. That's certainly still acceptable. It takes a lot longer for processing when it comes to uh, filing by mail. So the best way to do it is to do it electronically.
Okay, that's the fastest way, right?
That is.
Okay. Anika underscore Nika said, how many years do you have to do taxes? How many years do you have to do taxes?
Well, it depends. So typically, if you owe the IRS, and then we have some of these questions later on too, but um, typically about 3 years is as far as the IRS will go back if they're going to do an audit on your taxes. So anything past 3 years, you don't necessarily have to worry about. But if you owe money to the IRS, whether you know it or not, that um, is going to be collecting interest. And for the amount of time that you don't pay, that interest starts to compound. So you need to make sure that my recommendation is that you file your taxes every year, whether you think you're going to get a refund or not.
Okay. All right. Um, I already asked that question. Is there any, or is there an age restriction on who files taxes?
So, yes. So typically at the age of 14, you can get a work permit,
Mm-hmm.
which allows you to work a limited number of hours during the week. So, at the age of 14, you can start working. Now, if you were to make over $12,950 during that year that you work as a 14-year-old, then you would be required to file taxes.
Okay. I don't know. My niece did just ask me last week if she could get a job. She's gonna turn 14 in April. And
Yeah,
so she was asking me what type of job she can get. Um, but she would start paying taxes as soon as you start working is when you start paying taxes, right?
yes. And typically the minimum or the age that they start paying taxes or can file a tax return is age 14.
Okay. Um, let's see. What if you can pay taxes on your own? Are there any programs to help?
So if you owe the IRS money, there's a couple of different options that you have. Usually you can pay in full, or if you're not able to pay in full, as you mentioned in your question, then you can contact the IRS directly and they have programs where they will allow you to make payments on the outstanding balance. But keep in mind that even though they put you on a payment plan,
Mm-hmm.
that does not stop any interest that might be accrued during the time before the balance is paid in full.
Oh man. Okay. So this question isn't on here. It's a personal question because I have if I miss filing my taxes like last year, can I still file this year's taxes or do I have to do both? Like do I have to
You can
go back to all the years that I missed?
you can file this year's taxes separately
Mm-hmm.
because with each tax season, with each year, they're all filed individually, so they're not filed together.
Mm-hmm.
So you can still file this year if you did not file last year's taxes.
Mm-hmm.
However, I would strongly recommend that you take care of your taxes from the previous year in addition to the current tax year.
Okay. I'm looking for my W-2s, but I think I misplaced some of them. So that's the issue with getting caught up. I don't know how to go back because like they have the employer logins or the
Yep.
employee logins, and I don't know where any of that information is. So I don't know how else to get that my W-2 information from previous years.
So just to answer that question quickly, um, you can go to your employer, either their HR department or whoever handles payroll, and they should be able to issue you a new W-2, whether it's this year or previous year.
Okay. All right. So if you are married, how should you file taxes?
The best way to file if you are married is to file jointly because you get more benefits in terms of tax credits, and it also lowers your taxable income bracket. So there are a few different brackets that you would fall in, and those range depending on if you're married or if you're single. But those tax brackets are going to be lower again if you're filing jointly. Now, the again the benefit of that is you're going to get a higher deduction amount for credits. But if you are adamant about filing separately, you can also do that. Or if you feel that in some way that you're going to get a higher tax return by filing separately, you can file it that way. But I would recommend for anyone filing that's married to file together.
Okay. So I'm not married. So it has nothing to do with that question, but I do have another question because I used to do like Shipped, and DoorDash. So I believe we got in a 1099, I
Hmm.
think, file. I've never filed those before. Can you explain what's the difference between a 1099 and then a W-2, I guess?
Yes. So a W-2 is what you would get from a regular employer. That would be anyone that you work for. You work a certain amount of hours. They tell you what your hourly wage is going to be. You file a form called a W-4, which would indicate the amount of taxes that will be taken
Hmm.
out of your check, and then all of that is submitted to the IRS, and then they'll keep track of those funds your employer will throughout the year. Now, in addition to you being responsible for filing taxes, your employer is also obligated to report that income to the IRS. So with the W-2 form, that's the total amount that you're going to receive for that tax year. Now, as a 1099 employee or 1099, that is actually a contract employee. So you're not an employee of the company per se, but you're doing contract work for them.
Hmm.
And so they issue a 1099. And typically with the 1099, they do not take taxes out of that. So you are, even though you'll get all of your money up front, you are responsible for paying the taxes on that money at the end of the year. So you have to be really careful to set aside money throughout the year so that you're not having this huge expense at the end of the year when you get ready to file your taxes.
Okay. I got some catching up to do because that was. I am not good when it comes to filing taxes. I'll remember it, and then I'll do it today. I'll do it today, and then I just keep forgetting it. If I don't do it at the time when I remember it, it's not going to get done
Well,
when it comes to
there's
filing taxes.
there's this beautiful thing called a Google Calendar that might work well for you.
Yeah, I'm working on it. I think it's because I just don't feel like doing it, and so it's easy for me to forget about it. So yeah. Um,
Understood.
so what are the different filing statuses for filing taxes?
So there's essentially five different filing statuses. There's single, there's married filing jointly, there's married filing separately, there's head of household, and then there's also qualifying widow or widower with a qualifying child.
Mm-hmm.
And so the differences between those, obviously, single is when you are not married.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Now, married filing jointly, of course, you're filing with your spouse. Married filing separately, you're married but filing separately from your spouse. Head of household is when you take care of someone else, when you pay someone else's dependent, when you pay their expenses more than half of their living costs for the year. So, for example, if you are single and you have a child,
Mm-hmm.
then you would file as head of household instead of filing as a single person.
Okay. So, um, say I was single, and then I gained guardianship over like what
Mhm.
I would file as head of household and not single.
You would file as head of household, correct? As long as you paid more than half of their living costs for the year. So, and they also have to have lived with you for at least 6 months out of the year in order for you to qualify for head of household.
Okay. So Anika underscore Anika said, how does the interest work? Like, what percentage do they add throughout the year?
It varies depending on the amount that you owe, and it varies depending on the state that you live in. So, and honestly, I don't know exactly what that percentage is, because they calculate it on an individual basis.
Hmm. Do you know like a
But
range
it's
for the interest?
you're going to be paying at least 10% interest
Okay.
on the total balance that you owe, minimally.
Minimum, at least. Okay. Dang. Okay. Okay. So what is considered independent when filing taxes? Would you recommend someone claim themselves or leave the dependent at zero if they are single when filing?
So So there's two different things that you're kind of talking about here. When you fill out your W-4 form for your employer, that's where you determine the amount of dependents that are on your tax withholding. So you can file at zero, one, two, or whatever number of dependents that you have. It's different when you're actually filing taxes, because a dependent is someone that you take care of specifically, more than half of the year. Now, a dependent can range. It does not just have to be a child. It could be your elderly parents. It could be a disabled sibling. It could be a family member that you're taking care of that's not able to take care of themselves. So that dependent status ranges depending on the relationship, but the underlying or the commonality with all of those is that you have to have paid at least half of their living costs for the year, and they have to have lived with you for a minimum of 6 months throughout the year in order for you to be able to claim them as a dependent.
Okay, this is a human, correct? Not a pet.
Not a pet, no.
Okay, Anika, did you get that? Because I know you would probably talk about Prince. So they need to let people
No
know
dogs
that.
allowed.
Okay. So when we are filing or filling out our, I think it's a W-4 with our employers when
Mhm.
working, would you suggest we mark zero as a dependent or one?
Well, it
Or
depends. If you mark one, then they're gonna the more the higher the number of dependents you claim, the less taxes they take out.
mhm.
So it depends. Now, let me just put this out there for a lot of people that may not even realize this. So if you get a refund during tax season, that really means that the IRS took more money from you than they should have. Okay, so the purpose of taxes, the ideal scenario is for you to owe nothing or to break even, where you don't owe, but you don't get a refund. That's the ideal scenario. If you're getting a really large refund, and there are a few exceptions to that, and I'll explain those a little bit later. But if you're getting a refund, that means that they're taking more money out of your check that you could have had in your pocket throughout the year.
Ooh, that's a harsh reality. I don't think people really understand that.
But yes, but you can also, if you want to use that kind of as a, some employers will allow you to have like a Christmas fund where you can set aside so much money to go into this, and then around Christmas time they give that money back to you. You can kind of think of your taxes in the same way if you want to use it as a way of saving money. You can have a higher amount of taxes taken out, and that way you're assured to have a refund at the end of the year. Again, but if you're single, if you claim zero, that means they're going to take out the highest amount of taxes available or for your situation. And there are tax brackets. So, depending on what your income is, those brackets will then come into effect, whether you're paying, in the lowest tax bracket or the highest tax bracket, which is 37%.
37, that's 37% that they're taking out or that you're supposed to be getting back.
37% that they're taking out.
Okay. Okay. Gotcha. So this is something that I've always heard when I was growing up. Um, the more jobs you work, the less money that you're going to be getting in taxes. Is that true?
Not necessarily, because every employer, based on the W-4 that you fill out, is going to take out a different amount of taxes. So if you, well, let me make it a little bit more plain. So if you have two jobs, and let's say one job you're making um, $40,000 a year, and the other job you're making $20,000 a year.
Mm.
Well, the job that you're making $20,000 a year is going to take out less taxes than the one making $40,000 a year. At the end of the day, you want to make sure that the amount of taxes that's being taken out is appropriate, because if they don't take out enough taxes, that's when you get into a situation where you're going to owe money on the taxes that should have been paid.
Okay. Okay.
To answer
Um,
your question.
yeah, because I know when I was filing taxes, I used TurboTax a couple years
Mhm.
ago. And my refund was like 300, maybe a little over $300. And I was telling my friends that because they were also adults and starting to file their taxes, and they were getting like thousands of dollars back. And they were like, you did something wrong or something's wrong. You should have been getting more than that. You worked X amount of jobs or whatever the case was. So I just wanted to make sure I was doing it right. I feel like I still feel like I did it wrong, but I'm not sure.
Well, there's a few things that can work to your benefit. Number one, if you're in school, a lot of people don't do this, but you can actually claim your tuition. You can claim the money that you spent on books.
Mhm.
All of those things can give you a credit, usually up to $2,500 back into your refund. And so there's a couple of different tax credits that you can get if you're in school full time, or at least half time. That you have to be in at least half time in order to take advantage of the credits. So that's one of the things. The other thing is they have what they call an earned income credit.
Mhm.
Now, for that, you don't have to have a child. Um, a child is going to increase the amount of the earned income credit that you get depending on what your income level is. But the earned income credit is typically for people who have a lower annual income. It gives them more of a tax credit at the end of the filing season so that they can get a higher tax return.
Okay. How do you go about doing something like that?
So for the earned income credit, there are some thresholds for that. Um, so the one thing that you have to make sure of is that your adjusted gross income, or your total income for the year. If you're single, let me get this right here. You can get up to $600. If you have one qualifying child, a dependent, then you can get up to $3,995. If you have two children, and your income meets a certain threshold, you can get up to $6,600 back. And if you have three kids, then you can get up to $7,430. And that's before any other credits that you might get back. That's only the um, earned income credit.
Earned income credit. Let me make the note of that. Okay. All right. I'll have to look into that more because I mean I just need more information. Um. So I feel like you probably answered this already, but how long can you go without filing taxes?
Typically, the IRS will go back 3 years, or they can, if they're doing an audit, for example, they can typically go back 3 years to review anything that you filed.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I would recommend that if you are behind on filing, it's not as big a deal if you're getting a refund,
Mm-hmm.
but if you owe taxes, that's when it can be a little bit more severe in terms of the penalties and interest that's tacked on to the balance that you owe.
Okay. So say if you did go 3 years without filing taxes,
Mhm.
or let's say you went 5 years without filing taxes, and then you filed taxes this year. Um, would you only do the last 2 years since they're not gonna go, or the last 3 years since they're not gonna go past 3 years, or you should do all 5 years?
It's recommended that you do all 5 years, even though that doesn't probably sound like the thing that you want to hear, but
Uh
you
huh.
want to try to get all of those years taken care of, even though for audit purposes they can only go back about 3 years,
Hmm.
but you still want to make sure that all of those things are taken care of, just so that you can have a little bit more peace of mind.
Okay. And
You
it
definitely
said
don't want the IRS coming after you.
that's true. Must be nice to these to those who have kids.
And it is, and typically, they have these credits in place as a way of being a resource for those who have limited resources, who might be under a certain median income for that particular area that they live in. So that credit is really aimed at being more beneficial in helping them to take care of the cost of the children without necessarily, being on welfare or getting food stamps or EBT, I guess they have now,
Mhm.
without those things. So that's a way of just being more of an assistance.
Okay. Um, do they have programs that help pay back your taxes if you can't afford it?
Um, you would have to check with your particular state. There are some states that have programs where they can assist you in paying back your taxes. But again, the IRS does have payment programs that they can put you in order to make the payments a little bit more affordable.
Okay. Um, so so if you went through a period without filing, what will happen the next time you file?
Um, that really depends on whether or not you're expected to get a refund or whether you owe.
Mm-hmm.
If you Now, it's not one of those things where if you, let's say, if you are 3 years behind in filing your taxes, if you file this year,
Mm-hmm.
the IRS is not going to necessarily go back and say, well, you didn't file in 2022, 2021, or 2020.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so but they do, again, they do keep track of all of the income that's being earned because, as I mentioned earlier, your employer is obligated to report any income that you earn with their company throughout the year, and so they turn that information over to the IRS. So the IRS does have access to that.
Mm. Okay. And I think this question you have already answered, so I'm not gonna answer it again. Do you have any tips for people that are filing their taxes? I think tax season is ends in April. So, any suggestions or tips you have for them?
Absolutely. So the first thing is, number one, none of us like to be surprised with getting a lower refund than what we anticipated. So the one thing that I recommend is there's a number that you can call. It's called the federal offset number. And what that number does, and I'll give you the number in just a moment. When you call this number, you'll follow the prompts, you'll put in your social security number, and it will let you know whether or not anyone has a lien on your taxes. So let's say if you were in school after after you finish school, typically after 6 months of finishing school or 6 months after stopping school, you typically have to start paying back your student loans. So if those loans go into a default status, then they can put a lien on your taxes. And so any federal refund that you would get, the let's say if you were expecting $5,000 on your refund, and then you had an outstanding default balance of your student loans of 10,000, and they put a lien against your taxes where they're going to get that 5,000, they're going to get that whole $5,000 until it's paid off, and they can put that request in to have your a lien against your taxes every year until it's paid in full. So by calling this number, and the number here is 800 304 3107.
Okay.
And again, when you call that number, it will let you know whether or not your taxes are expected to be offset or not. It's always good to find out because it's outside of some of the federal agencies that can put a lien on your taxes. There are some state um, agencies that can also put a lien on your taxes. So it's not just federal. So that'll let you know if anyone has requested to have your taxes taken in a way to get their money back.
Okay.
I'm just gonna.
Oh yeah, I guess I could put that in the comments. On stuff so far.
And I'm gonna put another number in here as well. So if anyone is hearing impaired or have any difficulty with communication, there's another number that you can call that will better assist you. One of the other things that I would suggest, um, and this is something that anyone can do, and this is highly recommended.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you have a side hustle or not,
Mm-hmm.
if you open up an LLC, then that can be used to offset your taxes. So think of it like this: when you're a W-2 employee, then the IRS tells you how much taxes you're going to pay them. When you're an LLC owner or business owner, you tell the IRS how much you're going to pay in taxes. And there's a lot more benefits. And again, it doesn't have to be, it could be, that you go around the neighborhood and pick up trash, and you can file an LLC under that. Terry's Trash Collection LLC, and then you can start writing off things like anything that you use to get the business started. If you use any space in your home, you can write off a portion of your home space as a home office. Anything that you buy, like a computer, any sort of printer, or any sort of electronics, or paper, or supplies, all of those things can be written off. If you go to um, if you go to have lunch with a friend and you guys just happen to talk about picking up trash. Well, now, guess what? That's a business lunch. You can write that off.
Okay. So, I think someone that I know told me a little bit about that as well. Because I have a two-bedroom apartment, I'm using my second bedroom as, my office space.
Mhm.
Um, where do I go to, I guess, or who would I talk to about me using this as an office space? Is that something that I have to talk to, like the landlords
Mm,
about?
Nope.
Or okay.
That's completely on you. So if you're planning on setting up an LLC, when you
Mhm.
get ready to file your taxes next year, the way that it works is you take the total square foot of your living space. So let's say your apartment is 1,200 square feet, and that one room where you're doing your office work out of is a total of 200 square feet,
Mhm.
wall to wall. Well, then once you put those numbers into the program, it will automatically calculate the square footage and how much of a credit you will be able to write off for that particular space. Also, as an LLC or business owner, you can write off your internet costs, you can write off your telephone costs, you can write off um, you know, any sort of let's say if you're taking your clothes to the laundromat, or if you have a washer and dryer at home
Mhm.
and you're paying for laundry detergent, well, now you can write off all of those things because those are what's necessary in order to keep you looking the way you need to look for your business. So there's so many things that you can write off, and that not even to mention being able to get cars and other things in the name of your business, and it separates you from your business separates you from your personal, so you can use your EIN in order to obtain business credit and do a lot of different things. And that's a whole nother subject, but those are some of the advantages of owning that LLC. You can write off a lot of things, and there's a lot more things that you can get, and you have access to a lot more capital once you have a LLC.
And that's after you get your LLC, it's the things that you obtain after the LLC. Like this laptop that I got for my business, but I don't have my LLC yet, so I can't write off the laptop costs. Correct.
It depends on when you bought it. So if you're in the process of forming your
Mhm.
LLC, and I would say if you got it within 30 days of forming that LLC, then you can use that as a write-off. But if you got it like last year,
Mhm.
then that's not going to work.
Okay. We'll probably have to bring you back to talk about those type of things because I obviously interview local entrepreneurs, so I'm sure they would like to know this information. And anybody that's looking forward or potentially trying to build a business, they'll probably need to know that information as well. Um, there was another question that I had personally. Would you recommend finding someone to file your taxes like in person type of thing, or would you suggest filing it online?
You can do it one or two ways. It really depends on your level of comfort. If you feel more comfortable being in front of someone, most of the places like H&R Block, they'll set up an interview or set up an appointment time. And essentially, what you do is you'll go in and you'll drop off all of your paperwork, and then they'll process the return. You know, Sometimes they'll do it while you're sitting there, but in most cases, you'll drop off the paperwork and then they'll process it at a later time. And so it's not too much of a difference when you're filing with someone, let's say, out of state. It would be essentially the same thing. You would send a copy of your W-2 and any other pertinent information to your filing, whether you have a 1099 um, that you received or anything else. If you're a homeowner, then you'll get credit for your mortgage interest that you pay. There's a lot of credits that are available depending on what your situation is. Um, And so all of those documents would need to be sent out to anyone that's going to be doing your return that's out of state or just even in a different area than where you are. But either option is good depending on your comfort level.
All right. Do you have any other tips for us before we close out?
I would say the main thing is just to be aware of whether or not you want to use your return as a refund, a way of having money back at the end of the tax season, or if you want more money in your pocket
Mm-hmm.
during the year, because you can always go to your employer if you're a W 2 employee, if you work for a company, at any time during the year, you can adjust your W 4 with that particular
Mm-hmm.
company. So if, let's say, for example, if you file your taxes this year and you find out that your employer didn't quite take out enough
Mm-hmm.
taxes, well, if you're still with that same employer, you can go back to them and say, I want to update my W 4, that you can have a higher amount of taxes taken out so that the following year you're not in that same situation where where they didn't take out enough money.
Mm-hmm.
So you can always adjust that throughout the year.
Okay. Does anyone else have any questions for my dad before I let him go? It is getting close to my bedtime. I am an old lady.
And I hope you feel better.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I need to drink some tea because my throat is still scratchy. I started feeling dizzy while I was at like right after I clocked out. I don't know what was going on, but I didn't feel too good.
Yeah, I can tell a little difference in the sound of your
Yeah.
voice.
um. So I don't think anybody has any other questions. Needs. Okay. Needs. I don't think so. I don't be
So
thinking.
if anyone needs any sort of additional information, you can feel free to contact me. I'm more than willing to answer any questions or to walk you through the process if you're still a little unsure of what to do. Um, but I certainly appreciate the opportunity to come on and um, to talk about taxes. So thank you.
You're welcome. His Instagram, he's the one that made the comments with the phone numbers. So if y'all have any additional questions, you can go ahead and follow him on his Instagram. Um, Hit him up, send a message or whatever. That's pretty much all I have for y'all tonight, though. Once again, I'll be back here on Sunday at 8 p.m. I think next week I might have a guest as well, but I have to confirm that to let y'all know. Again, I do have an interview coming out on Tuesday, 8 o'clock for Spotify, 8:30 for YouTube. The phone numbers didn't show. They didn't show. I see them on my end, so if not, I can also leave them in the description when I post this as well. But it should be up there.
And I do have just one last thing. If you want to track your refund, there's an app called IRS to go. Um, that will let you know when your return has been accepted by the IRS.
Mm-hmm.
It'll let you know when your um, refund has been approved, and it'll also let you know the date that it will be deposited into your bank account. I put the name of the app there so you can find that in Apple Store or Google Play.
Okay, and I'll also put that in the description as well for easy access for everyone to see. Trying to think if there was any other announcements other than the videos. Also, one more thing. I do want to I want people to give me their opinions on if I should post interviews twice a week or stick with once a week because I am doing interviews all the time. I think I have 3 that I have to post. I try to do at least 2 interviews a week, but sometimes I end up doing more. So if y'all feel like I should post more interviews, let me know about that. But that's pretty much all I have. I hope y'all have a great night. I will see y'all next Sunday. Bye. Thanks, Dad.
You're welcome.